everything is inspired by the teachings of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is the founder and Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Om Aganatimrandasyam Ganagana Sadakya Chaksuruniritam Yana Tashmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sapicham Yana Bhutare Sayam Nupakara Mayam Darati Swaparantikam Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We thought we'd talk today about Krishna's underdog. We all face times when what we're up against seems too big for us, the dream too great, the problem too strong, the opposition too powerful. People will discount us, rule us out, saying something like, it's never going to happen. You don't have what it takes. You don't have the resources. You don't come from the right family. The medical report is not good. Now, this whole term of underdog, we find it popping up most often in sports contexts and sports analogies, so I couldn't resist throwing in these two famous underdog quotes. Orlando Magic general manager Pat Williams said about his team's abysmal record back in 1992, before the Magic learned to win games. Williams said, "We can't win at home. We can't win on the road. As general manager, I just can't figure out where else to play." Here's another classic by Lou Holtz. He was coaching at South Carolina. He said, "Someone wrote a great football song for us that could be sung only after a winning game. But by the time we won a game, everybody had forgotten the words." Here's another one. The writer of Ecclesiastes says, "The race is not always to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, but," said one cynic, "that is the smart place to put your money." So in every game, there's an underdog, a team that is overmatched, a team not expected to win. Many of us can't help cheering for that underdog. Our message today is that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the same. In fact, as the absolute truths from which we come, we get that sense of cheering for the underdog from our source, from Krishna. When all the facts say impossible, Krishna will on purpose have his devotees be underestimated. When it seems least likely, that's when God shows up the greatest. Don't get discouraged when you're underestimated. It's a setup. Krishna put you in that position to show himself strong. When you defy the odds, then everybody will know that God got you to where you could not have gotten on your own. When you're outnumbered, outsized, out-trained, out-educated, don't be surprised if people discount you, tell you you're not talented enough, you're not tall enough, you're not strong enough, you're not experienced enough. And that may all be true. They may not be saying anything untrue, but what they can't see is what Krishna or God put in your heart. They're just looking on the outside from a natural perspective, but you have something on the inside, the seed of Almighty God. It will take you to where you could not go on your own. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sometimes doubt will whisper, "You don't have what it takes. How could you accomplish that dream? Where are you going to get the funds? How can you get that promotion? Your co-workers are more qualified. They have more training." Well, deep down, you can't explain it. But there's a little voice that's telling you, you can do it. You were created for this. You know, against all the odds, by the grace of God, it's going to happen. People looking at you think just the opposite. Well, you're just where you're supposed to be. Why? Because Krishna loves to use underestimated people. When you're looked down on, told it's not going to happen, that's the time to get excited, to get ready, because Krishna is going to show out in your life. It's going to be unusual, extraordinary, uncommon. People are going to be scratching their heads. How did he become that successful? Do you know what neighborhood he was raised in? How did she marry that man? I just don't see it. How did she get over the cancer? Did you see the medical report? How did they start that temple in Spanish Fork, Utah, where it's 90% another religion? I heard about a young man. He went for a walk in the woods to meditate. He found himself in a field of ripe pumpkins underneath a great acorn tree. He observed the tiny acorns hanging down from the gigantic branches of the tree, and then he glanced at the enormous pumpkins on the tiny little vines. He thought about this, and then he said to himself, God made a mistake. He should have put the tiny acorns on tiny vines and the great pumpkins on great branches. So pondering God's apparent mistake, the young man took a nap and fell fast asleep under the trees. A short time later, he was awakened when a tiny acorn struck his nose. He rubbed his bruised nose and concluded, maybe God was right after all. Now, Krishna loves to take underestimated people and do something awesome. The reason that he puts you in situations that are too big, too strong, too much, it's not to defeat you, but it's to establish you. When Krishna turns it around, when you discover the greatness that he put inside, when you step up and defy the odds, people are going to look at you, the devotee, in a whole new light. That's moving you towards your God-given purpose. When you're tempted, you feel overwhelmed, outnumbered, not enough. Instead of giving up, our encouragement is have a new perspective. I'm underestimated. That's okay. I know Krishna is up to something. I know favor is coming. I know new doors are about to open. I know healing is on the way. Krishna is going to defy the odds and do what only he can do. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Rather than being discouraged when you're underestimated, why not embrace being underestimated? Krishna loves to take the underdog and cause him to shine. Someone said, there's no freedom quite like the freedom of being constantly underestimated. When people don't believe in you, they're discounting you, writing you off, all the facts say it's never going to happen, you're in a perfect position for Krishna to surprise not only you, but everyone. That's the position from which Krishna shows up and does things that catapult you into your destiny. In his introduction to the Leelamrita, the biography of Srila Prabhupada, the founder of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, Satsarup Das Goswami writes, the story you're about to read is highly improbable. An elderly Indian Swami comes to New York City in the mid-1960s on a vaguely defined mission. Charged by his teacher in India to bring his spiritual message to the West, he arrives in New York with no prior knowledge of America, no basis of support, $7 to his name, and no clear plan of action. He moves about the city aimlessly, lives for a while in an artist's loft in the Bowery, and finally, with help from a few early members, rents a small storefront in the East Village. Now, this is all done in the 1960s, if you'll remember, right in the heart of the drug and countercultural movement. In that context, he begins to preach an unlikely message of sexual restraint, abstention from drugs, and purity of mind and body. And all of that on behalf of devotion to to the supreme God, Krishna. What follows, Satsru Maharaj writes, is a remarkable tale of faith, determination, and success beyond anybody's expectation. Krishna loves to choose the underdog, the least likely, the very one that others write off. So for ourselves, it is so important that we don't let how other people treat us determine our value. Don't let what they say determine your self-worth. They may not believe in you. They may see you as less than. They may say things meant to discourage you, push you down, discount you. Don't let those lies take root. Don't let those lies cause you to live inferior, insecure, not pursuing your dreams. Let it go in one ear and out the other. Why? They're underestimating you. You know this principle. Krishna uses underestimated people. It's a setup. He's about to show up in your life. More about Srila Prabhupada. At 7 years age, 1965, he ventured outside India for the first time to fulfill the order of his spiritual master. And during his voyage at sea, he suffered 2 severe heart attacks. He reached the shores of America with the equivalent of $7 to his name. He founded the International Society for Krishna Consciousness with a small group of disciples after a year of struggling alone in New York City. This marked the only time in history that a Krishna devotee successfully trained non-Indians in the strict disciplines of Vaishnavana. Amazingly, this was achieved during the blossoming of America's hedonistic countercultural movement. He sent his followers chanting the names of God into the streets of cities and towns everywhere, and Hare Krishna became a household word in every corner of the earth. He formally initiated about 5,000 disciples. These initiates represented a sweeping diversity of nationalities, ethnicities, and religious backgrounds. He established 108 Krishna temples on 6 continents, installed the deity of Krishna in each center, and trained his disciples in the process of deity worship. 32 new temples were opened in a single year between 1970 and 71. Prabhupada understood this principle. I'm the underdog, and that's okay. Doesn't hurt my feelings. I'm not offended. People can't see what Krishna put in me. The odds may be against me in the natural, but I know that Krishna uses underestimated people. He's supernaturally setting me up for another level of my destiny. In order to reach your destiny, sometimes you have to tune out all the naysayers, the intimidators, the can't do it thoughts. You have to know on purpose Krishna is causing you to be underestimated. People not believing in you, discounting you, telling you that you're way in over your head. That's a sign that you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Krishna is positioning you to do something that you've never seen, to defy the odds, to go where nobody in your family has ever gone, to take new ground for the kingdom. Don't get discouraged when people don't believe in you, when people try to talk you out of it. It's good to be underestimated. That means that Krishna is about to thrust you to new levels. More about Prabhupada. He created the world's first chain of vegetarian restaurants. He spoke daily on the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, delivering thousands of formal lectures. Over 2,200 were recorded and archived. He conducted hundreds of informal conversations on the science of Krishna consciousness with disciples, guests, and friends. Over 1,300 were recorded and archived. He had scores of interviews and philosophical discussions with news reporters, scientists, religious leaders, and politicians, as well as meetings with world-renowned dignitaries and celebrities like Indira Gandhi, Allen Ginsberg, Ravi Shankar, Alice Coltrane, John Lennon, and George Harrison. He recorded more than 20 albums of devotional music. He published the monthly magazine Back to Godhead, which he called the backbone of his movement. At the height of its circulation in the mid-70s, over 1 million copies per issue were sold. He launched the ISKCON Life Membership Program that enrolled tens of thousands of members. He built major temples in Bombay and Vrindavan, founded a spiritual city in Mayapur. All of them became international sites of pilgrimage. He established primary schools to provide education in the principles of bhakti. He set up farming communities to teach simple living and high thinking, emphasizing cow protection and dependence on God and nature. He commissioned his artist disciples to produce hundreds of illustrations of Krishna's pastimes based on his meticulous instructions and the descriptions in his books. He counsels his disciples on complex managerial, philosophical, and personal issues in more than 6,000 archived letters. He was the subject of more than 30,000 archival photos and more than 70 hours of documentary film footage. In the life of Prabhupada, Krishna was showing us this principle. He uses underestimated people. You may be in a situation where what you're up against seems impossible. There are giants in your life, in your finances. It doesn't look like you'll ever get ahead. The medical report's not good. Maybe a child's off course. You're still believing to meet someone, and yet nothing's working out. Can I tell you, you're right where Prabhupada was. Thoughts will tell you, there's no chance, it's too big, too complicated. You might as well turn around, throw in the towel, quit believing, give up on your dreams. No, don't believe those lies. Krishna lets the odds be against you on purpose. He lets you be the underdog. So when he turns it around, when you defy the odds, when you come out promoted, healthy, happy, married, victorious, nobody will doubt the Most High God is on your side. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Rama Rama. Hare Hare. And let me tell you, you don't need great talent to do something great. You don't have to have great resources to make your mark. You don't have to come from an influential family to make a big difference. But if you live thinking, if I just had more talent, more money, more education, more personality, more courage, that's going to limit you. Many times, it's not other people underestimating us, it's us who we are underestimating. It's not the size of the dream which is holding us back, but it's the lies that we're buying into. I'm too small, too young, too old, too shy, too clumsy, not strong enough, not in good health. Can I tell you, what you have in your hand is the ticket to the next level of your destiny. Prabhupada wrote 70 books on the science of Krishna consciousness, slept only a few hours a day. Dozens of prominent scientists and scholars from leading universities praised his work. The Encyclopedia Britannica proclaimed that his voluminous translations from the original Sanskrit and commentaries, quote, have astounded literary and academic communities worldwide. This feat is even more astonishing considering the translations and commentaries were in English, which was a second language to Prabhupada. He founded the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust in 1972 to produce his books. By 1976, over 55 million literatures had been published in 25 languages and distributed in almost every country, making the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust the world's largest publisher of Indian religion and philosophical texts. He circled the world 14 times, visited 24 countries, preaching, inspiring his followers, and making countless public appearances before a multitude of people. He skillfully managed his international society through letters and personal meetings virtually without the use of a telephone. Don't discount what you have. Krishna will take the little, he'll take what seems like not enough, and he will breathe on it. Then that little will become more than enough. My question is, what do you think about what you have? Are you discounting what Krishna's given you? I'm not saying this arrogantly, but I realize that my bags are packed. Krishna equipped me with the talent I need, the courage I need. I have the skills I need. I have the height. I have the looks. I have the friends. I have the favor I need. Now, my encouragement is to you, don't go through life thinking that you're at a disadvantage, that you're lacking. You have everything that you need. People may underestimate you. That's just part of Krishna's plan. Don't underestimate yourself. Don't discount yourself. Don't talk yourself out of the greatness that God put in you. You will be amazed at how far you can go with a little talent, a little courage, a little faith, a little determination. Krishna will let the odds be against you on purpose. He'll put you in situations where you're the underdog, where everybody counts you out. You don't have the size, the training, the skills, the equipment. Now, don't be focused on what you don't have, because if that's the case, you'll end up talking yourself out of it. The right approach is, Krishna, I know that your being for me is more than the whole world being against me. You allow us to be underestimated so that you can then show your power in greater ways. When Krishna breathes on what you have, like with Prabhupada, you'll defeat enemies that are bigger, overcome obstacles that look impossible, go places that you've never dreamed. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. When Bobby, my wife, and I came to Utah in 1981, no one, including ourselves, expected us to build a temple. We didn't have the training. We didn't have the funds. When I'm not public speaking, I'm really quiet, shy, and reserved. I like, believe it or not, being behind the scenes. But when Prabhupada passed in 1977, I felt that I was supposed to take a step of faith. And I thought of starting a mission in, of all places, Utah. Plenty of people thought that Bhai and I couldn't do it. I overheard critics talking about me. Who does he think he is? He's a nobody. I don't believe he'll make it. He'll burn and crash in the deserts of Utah. But despite what they said, despite these critics coming against me, despite the limitations of my reasoning,